What other issues have y'all run into? Any issues with streets or HOAs?
Parking, big issue.
Parking. Parking's a big issue.
Shared driveways.
Shared driveways? Because everybody gets along, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Till they don't.
Till they don't. Yeah. Shared parking. Dumpsters. Dumpsters can always be an issue too. Grills at HOAs and condos. Your tenant moves in, and as a moving in party, they have a cookout and have a grill on their back deck. And then you get calls from everybody in the HOA. See all the issues? Mailbox keys. That's always a blast. Keeping up with mailbox keys. Did the tenant turn in the mailbox keys when they moved out, or are you going to have to rekey it? It just opens up a whole new area you have to be aware of. Question? Going back a little bit to trust accounts, which Pam was talking about earlier, if you manage HOAs, let's say you manage 4 HOAs and you have a property management with houses. How many trust accounts do you have to have? Each HOA has to have their own trust account, correct?
Yes.
There you go. So that factors into it too. So if you're managing, you manage 20 HOAs and you do, like what most of y'all said, you have a trust account for rent and a trust account for security deposits, you got 22 trust accounts. It's good times there, right?
So going back to the streets issue, our neighborhood was a private street. We were one of the first ones to move in 10 years ago, and the developer passed away. So I went to the DOT, tried to get it taken over. They said we had to have at least 7 homes on our street. Well, that just happened last year, so I got them to come out. And now we have to do all kinds of stuff to bring it back. It was built correctly, but now we have to do all kinds of stuff to bring it back up to their code. And one thing is, one of the newer houses that was built, their driveway is a little too high. They want them to tear out the end of the apron, re-pour it. And I said, why would that matter? He said, if a snowplow comes down through here,
Tear up the truck.
it could tear up our truck. And little stuff like that, and I can't get all the neighbors together to do it. And the whole right side of our neighborhood, this is in the country, so all the neighbors, when it was built, bought all those lots. So they just wanted it so no one was building backing up to their property. So they don't want anything to do with maintaining the road because they're not using it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a mess.
That's a prime example of how this can happen. You saw this a lot with the roads. I think the 2008, 9, and 10 market correction, because just like what Rusty said, to get roads dedicated, a neighborhood has to have so much percentage of the neighborhood done. It's the builder's responsibility until I think it's 70% or something ballpark, the neighborhood's done. Then the state will come in and look at the roads and say, okay, they're to our code, we'll take them over. But a lot of builders left, half the neighborhood's not developed, so the state wouldn't take them over. Now that they're to standards, they need new asphalt, or they need new width or whatever. That was exactly what happened in our neighborhood. I know one large neighborhood with probably 50 houses that had the exact same problem, and it came down to one house had one of those brick mailboxes, brick from all the way over it, and it was too close to the street, and the guy refused to move his mailbox, and he was holding up 50-some houses from the streets being maintained because the state wouldn't do it.
I bet it got run over one night.
I think that might be what happened. So you see how this something as basic as a street can kind of just unravel really quick? Yeah.
For someone who serves on the planning board of a municipality, our planning department are much more educated today
Much.
than they were 15, 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They go through stormwater, the fire chief, the fire department looks at it for turn and access. They look at the road maintenance and stormwater and grading and curbing. So hopefully moving forward,
Mm-hmm.
the next 20 or 30 years, it's less likely that we have these problems. But
There's a new thing at the state that I think just recently within the past couple of months got approved, and now the state's starting to look in and create a database of streets that are like this. Because right now, part of our policy, what we do, if we list a new house, especially on the sales side, part of the policy, if we list it, then we start with the city first, then we call the state, and we try to find out, and we ask them, do you maintain these streets? Yes, we do. Great, what's your name? And we document that to say that we called and checked on it. If they say, no, we don't, then we dig in a little bit deeper. But that kind of needs to be in your checklist to kind of figure out who's doing this and who's maintaining them. But it's definitely an issue. Sometimes you call the state and they're like, the city's doing it, and you call the city and the city says the state's doing it. Now we're like, okay, and then you drive down there and nobody's doing it. You can see, this should be red flags. New agents, if you turn onto a street that you're getting ready to go list and you see potholes or it looks like the street did in that video, that should be a red flag. That should be like, okay, who's keeping this up? Question?
I don't know if someone said this, but with issues with homeowner associations is if their covenants allow renters at all. When I bought, I don't know if you said that or not, when I bought my townhouse, 10 years ago, whatever, I was in not even a year, and someone came around with a clipboard, and they were saying that they don't want renters anymore. Like they want, going forward, whoever bought a unit was not allowed to rent. And I said, well, as a person who's gonna rent my place in the future, I'm not gonna sign that. And it never fell, it didn't go through.
It did go through.
But some HOAs it does.
Yeah, absolutely. And
They might kick your tenant out, not even realizing that you couldn't do that.
yeah, that's if you're managing property in a community or an HOA, you definitely need to follow up on that. Because what's the reason a condo unit, for example, 100 condos in a building, why would they pass a rule saying we don't allow tenants?
Government financing.
Government financing. Because if it goes over a certain percentage of the properties, it gets really hard to get financing on those properties. So because of that, HOAs have looked into it. Now, there could be a flip side of that if the market corrects, you just removed all the investors and, the prices can go different. But you got to check into it. You got to do research.
I had a house on Reedsville Road.
Okay.
That I bought, and I was renting it, and the state came by one day and said, hey, they were going to widen Reedsville Road.
109.
And the line would be about 3 feet from the front door. See, I had everything checked when I bought it, and they thought they had bought that right away.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to go all the way to Raleigh to turn General's office.
And you're on Reedsville Road. I know that street well. Was your septic tank in the front yard? Because the road goes right through your septic tank? Yeah, and now you have a house with no septic tank. That'd be fun.
But they didn't know the right of way.
Yeah.
And I was the only one within 2 miles they had not bought.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
my house.
Mark, back to the HOA statement
Mhm.
a little bit, and the one thing that I've learned over the last 15 years in dealing with HOAs and these matters is, they are restricting private property rights. They are restricting owners from being able to do or need to do what they desire to do with their property. In real estate, you've got 5 options. You sell it, you rent it, deed in lieu of foreclosure, you foreclose, or you get bankrupt. Those are your 5 options in real estate, or you give it to somebody. So when you start taking the good options away, selling and renting a property, and leaving them with 4 or 5 other ones, it's not good for anybody. It's not good for the community, and it's not good for them as homeowners. And we really, as property managers, need to fight these HOAs on that, because there's more good tenants out there than there is bad.
Mhm.
And you're trying to dictate someone's financial ability on someone else's inability to afford something for a loan at 3.5% down or 100% financing. So would you rather have somebody that's 100% financing your unit for potential foreclosure, or would you rather have a quality tenant in their paying rent on time?
And that's why I call him the mayor when he comes in. Good points. Good point. And, HOAs are pretty much, there's the regulation on them is kind of different. Sometimes it's hard just to get financials on HOAs. Somebody's buying a property and you call up and say, hey, I just want to be sure y'all are financially helpful. Well, no, we're not giving you that. We give it to the homeowner. We'll give it to the property owner. Well, it's foreclosed and it's a bank that's 10 states away. So, there's a lot of issues that go into HOAs, especially when you get into selling and the financials of it and everything. But valid points. So.
Did a referral to Myrtle Beach, and HOA, 4,000 HOAs in Myrtle Beach proper right now. 4,000.
Yeah.
It's stupid crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Can HOAs foreclose on you too?
Yes.
Yes, they can. So it just opens up. So the main takeaway from that, streets and HOAs, do a little bit of research, okay? There should be some questions. Bare minimum, if you're not in an HOA, just call city, county, state, whoever, find out if you're maintaining the roads. If it is an HOA, might have to dig in a little bit deeper. And I'm pretty positive in our standard North Carolina leases, there's a line in there saying you provided a copy of the HOA restrictions. I don't have the number in front of me, but I'm pretty sure that's actually in the lease. If Brad want to look that up and let me know at a break, that would be great. Any other thoughts, questions? So have I got you scared to death yet? Septic tanks, HOA, streets. I get to talk about all the fun stuff, right?